At 3:17 UTC, the Zothran fleet emerged in Earth's orbit, their warships shimmering with cloaking fields that bent light into mesmerizing veils. The sight was beautiful, almost ethereal, but for humanity, it marked the beginning of annihilation. On the Void Sovereign, General Kalvok stood before a massive viewport, the emerald glow of his eyes fixed on the fragile blue-green sphere below. To Kalvok, this mission was a formality, a mere exercise for his forces, renowned across the galaxy for their military precision. "Observe," Kalvok said, gesturing to Earth. "A world of primitives. They squabble over borders and cling to outdated technologies. Conquering them will be effortless." Commander Vrasik, his adjutant, shifted uneasily. "General, there are reports of peculiarities in their defensive strategies, unpredictable methods." "Unpredictability," Kalvok interrupted, his mandibles clicking in disdain, "is the hallmark of desperation. Deploy the jammers. Let their chaos devour them." By 4 UTC, Earth's communications blacked out. Cities plunged into darkness as orbital jammers disrupted power grids and satellites spun into disarray. From New York to Nairobi, the digital age went silent. At first, panic spread. People stared at blank screens and flickering lights, unsure what was happening. But beneath the confusion, an ancient human instinct stirred: resilience. In a nondescript bunker under a long-abandoned drive-in theater in North Dakota, Nathan Collier leaned over a battered console, sipping stale coffee. A wiry man with perpetually unkempt hair and a flannel shirt. Nathan had spent years as part of the National Defense Initiative for Creative Solutions, a program so obscure the Pentagon had defunded it 2 years prior. When his emergency pager buzzed, a relic immune to EMP interference, Nathan read the alert with a grin. Alien incursion confirmed. Protel Omega-36 activated. "Well, guess it's showtime," he muttered, draining his mug. Within minutes, Nathan was on the line with Shauna Greaves, a retired cryptographer and fellow veteran of Creative Solutions. "Shauna, it's happening," Nathan said. Her groggy voice sharpened. "Alien invasion." "Alien invasion? And you want me to fire up the scrambler?" "Exactly. You mean the thing we built out of garage sale toasters in a Soviet satellite dish?" "That's the one." A cackle erupted on her end. "Oh, this is going to be fun." On board the Void Sovereign, Kalvok reveled in the reports. Earth's response was disjointed, its military scrambling without centralized coordination. "All resistance is neutralized," Vrasik reported, though his mandibles clicked with faint unease. Kalvik scoffed. "Resistance? They cower in the dark, clutching their primitive tools, begin ground deployments." But before the Zothrans could land, anomalies rippled through their systems. By 6 UTC, Shauna's toaster-based scrambler was in full swing, injecting noise into the Zothran communication network via decommissioned satellites. At first, the interference was minor. Delayed commands, glitches in drone navigation. By 7 UTC, the chaos had escalated. Tactical drones spiraled aimlessly, supply ships rerouted to the Pacific Ocean. Automated battalions received contradictory orders, some of which involved performing an ancient human dance called the Makara. Kalvok's claws scraped the console as he snarled, "What is happening?" Vrasik hesitated. The interference appears to originate from Earth. In a war room hastily assembled in Colorado Springs, Nathan watched the unfolding havoc with grim satisfaction. "Let's give them something to panic about," he said. "Shauna, activate Operation Firefly." Thousands of modified drones launched into the skies, each carrying holographic projectors. From orbit, Zothran sensors detected what appeared to be massive Earth fleets, entire armadas of starships and orbital defenses. This is impossible, Vrasik stammered. How did we miss a planetary force of this size? Kalvolk's mandibles twitched in fury. Deception. Deploy the assimilators. They'll strip the truth from these illusions. The assimilators, spider-like drones designed to infiltrate and neutralize enemy systems, descended toward Earth. Nathan, watching their approach on a grainy monitor, grinned. They're sending in the big guns, Shauna said over comms. Perfect, Nathan replied. Time to introduce them to FOR. Still hate that name, Shauna muttered. False artifact relay trap, Nathan defended. It's accurate. The trap consisted of decoy data caches loaded with nonsense. Cookie recipes, Shakespeare rewritten as calculus, and blueprints for fictional spaceships called Bob. The assimilators fell for it. As they attempted to process the absurd data, their systems overloaded, leaving them immobilized. By 9:15 UTC, half the assimilators were stuck in infinite loops, reciting nursery rhymes in Zotan binary. Kalvolk's temper snapped. Enough. Prepare planetary bombardment. Burn them all. Nathan watched as the Zothran fleet began charging its doomsday weapons. Time for Plan B, he muttered. Plan B was Operation Lazarus, a Cold War-era contingency that activated dormant nuclear submarines equipped with EMP warheads. At 9:45 UTC, synchronized EMP blasts rippled across the globe, surging into orbit. Zothran warships flickered and fell silent, their systems fried by the electromagnetic shock waves. On board the Void Sovereign, Kalvolk stood in stunned silence as the lights dimmed and consoles went dark. How? He whispered. Nathan's voice crackled over the comms, smug but calm. Welcome to Earth, General. Next time, read the fine print. By 10 UTC, the Zothrans were in full retreat. Earth had won. Not with overwhelming firepower, but with ingenuity, audacity, and sheer grit. Kalvolk, retreating aboard the crippled Void Sovereign, vowed revenge. But deep down, he knew one truth. Humanity was a species like no other. And they weren't going down without a fight. The Zothran fleet drifted in shambles at the edges of Earth's orbit, reduced from a terrifying armada to a collection of powerless husks. On the surface, cities erupted in celebration. Across the globe, people took to the streets cheering not only for their survival, but for their improbable victory. In a dimly lit bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Nathan Collier wasn't celebrating. He stood over a console, poring over satellite feeds and fragmented Zothran transmissions. Shauna Greaves was beside him, a steaming mug of coffee in hand. They're retreating, she said. We won, Nathan. Nathan shook his head. No, they're regrouping. Kalvolk doesn't strike me as the give up and go home type. He tapped the monitor, showing images of the Zothran fleet limping away. Look at how orderly that is. They're not broken. They're biding their time. Shauna sighed, leaning back in her chair. So, what's the plan? Build bigger toasters? Nathan gave her a crooked grin. Something like that. Earth's victory wasn't just noticed on its surface. The battle had drawn the attention of the galaxy. Unknown factions monitored the aftermath, their shadowy ships at the edges of the solar system, recording every detail of humanity's defiance. It wasn't long before fragments of alien technology scattered across the planet became humanity's next focus. In the Arctic Circle, a recovery team hauled a glowing Zothran power core from the wreckage of a scout ship. Off the coast of Japan, divers retrieved propulsion systems intact enough to reverse engineer. and in the Nevada desert, a heavily armed convoy guarded a massive, dormant Zothran weapon. As it was transported to a research facility, Nathan's war room in Colorado Springs became the nerve center for Earth's hybridization efforts. "We've got to turn their tech against them," Nathan said to a group of engineers, military leaders, and scientists. "We don't just need to fight off another invasion. We need to make sure they don't even think about coming back." But the Zothrans weren't the only ones with an eye on Earth's newfound potential. Weeks after the invasion, a small fleet of unmarked ships appeared at the edge of the asteroid belt, scanning the remnants of the battle. Rogue factions, former Zothran allies, and scavengers from across the galaxy began targeting Earth's recovery teams. At a wreckage site in the Amazon, a Zothran scavenger force ambushed a TDC recovery team. The survivors sent a single transmission, taking everything, requesting immediate backup. On board the Bastion, Earth's newly retrofitted orbital station, Nathan watched the transmission with narrowed eyes. "They're testing us," Shauna said from her station, pulling up additional reports. "Another unregistered signal off Madagascar, and energy spikes near the Indian Ocean. This isn't random." Nathan rubbed his temples. "It's Calvok's playbook. He doesn't need to rebuild an invasion force if he can keep us too busy to defend ourselves." In response, the Terran Defense Coalition launched its most ambitious recovery operation yet. Its teams were deployed worldwide to secure critical Zothran technology. Orbital patrols scoured the solar system for rogue ships. The Phoenix, Earth's first hybrid starship, was launched to monitor the asteroid belt. Nathan joined Shauna in the Phoenix's hangar as technicians ran final checks. "This thing still looks like it's held together by duct tape and bad decisions," Shauna said, eyeing the patchwork hull. Nathan shrugged. "Well, it hasn't exploded yet, that's a start. And when it does?" He smirked. "You'll fix it." The Phoenix's first mission was to investigate the rogue signals near the asteroid belt. As it approached, its scanners detected an enormous structure hidden among the rocks, a shipyard, teeming with activity. "This isn't just a scavenger op," Nathan said, staring at the display. "They're building something." Shauna leaned closer, her expression darkening. "Or rebuilding. That's Zothran tech. And it's not just ships. Look at the energy output. They're gearing up for something big." Nathan nodded grimly. "Then we stop it, before it's finished." The Phoenix deployed stealth drones to gather intel while Nathan coordinated with the TDC. The shipyard was identified as a Zothran-aligned facility, supported by rogue factions. Its purpose became clear. They were constructing a weaponized station capable of launching an all-out assault on Earth. Nathan assembled his team aboard the Phoenix. "We're not waiting for them to bring the fight to us," he said. "We hit them now, while they're still building. This is our chance to stop the next invasion before it starts." Shauna crossed her arms. "And how exactly do we stop a shipyard bristling with defenses?" Nathan grinned. "We improvise." The Phoenix approached the shipyard under the cover of its experimental cloaking system. As it neared, Nathan and his team prepared for infiltration. Using a stolen Zothran transponder, they slipped into the facility undetected, planting charges on critical systems. But the Zothrans were prepared. Alarms blared as patrols intercepted the team. The firefight that erupted was brutal, the corridors of the shipyard flashing with plasma fire and sparks from damaged systems. "We're out of time," Shauna shouted over comms from the Phoenix's bridge. "Get back here, or you're not getting back at all." Nathan activated the detonator as the team retreated. The charges exploded, sending the shipyard into chaos. Key systems collapsed, and the weaponized station's core began to destabilize. The Phoenix swooped in for a daring extraction, its engines roaring as it pulled away from the exploding shipyard. The station erupted in a cascade of light and shrapnel, scattering debris across the asteroid belt. Back on Earth, Nathan debriefed the TDC council from the Bastion. "The shipyard's gone, but it's not over," he said. "Calvok's forces are scattered, but they're regrouping, and now the rest of the galaxy knows we're not just fighting back, we're winning." Shauna leaned over, muttering to him, "You think that's a good thing?" Nathan gave a small smile. "Not really, but it's better than the alternative." The destruction of the shipyard marked another victory for humanity, but Nathan knew the stakes were only rising. Across the galaxy, powers far greater than the Zothrans were beginning to take notice. And Earth's greatest battles were still ahead. The destruction of the Zothran shipyard sent shockwaves across the galaxy. For the first time, an unaligned world, a planet of relative obscurity, had not only resisted invasion, but turned the invaders' technology against them. In the orbital station Harbinger's Throne, the Lathar Consortium, a faction notorious for its cold pragmatism and galactic influence, convened to discuss the rising anomaly of Earth. "Unprecedented," murmured Envoy Prime, its golden eyes reflecting the hologram of Earth. Its flawless features betrayed no emotion, but its voice carried an edge of curiosity. "This species achieves survival against odds that would crush others." The room of delegates, humanoid and otherwise, shifted uncomfortably. "Should we intervene?" one asked, its voice modulating through a translator. Allowing them to grow unchecked could destabilize the balance. Envoy Prime tilted its head. "Perhaps, but their methods intrigue us. We shall evaluate their worth before deciding their fate." Back on Earth, Nathan Collier paced the war room in Colorado Springs, surrounded by holographic displays of new threats. Reports flooded in from the asteroid belt. Remnants of Calvok's coalition had coalesced into scattered rogue factions, each vying for control of abandoned Zothran technology. "Scavenger ships are getting bolder," Shauna said, pulling up footage of a rogue fleet dismantling the remains of a Zothran cruiser. "And they're not alone. We've picked up traces of other alien groups sniffing around our backyard. If we don't move fast, they're going to claim what's left of the Zothrans for themselves." Nathan frowned. "Then we move faster." The Terran Defense Coalition ramped up its efforts to secure the wreckage. Recovery teams, now armed with hybrid technology, worked to lock down key Zothran sites across the globe. Orbital patrols pushed deeper into the asteroid belt, intercepting scavengers and rogue factions. But the most critical project was the continued retrofitting of Earth's hybrid fleet. Shauna stood on the deck of the Phoenix, watching as engineers welded alien alloys into the hull of a new starship. "This is insane," she muttered, shaking her head. Nathan joined her, crossing his arms. "What now?" "Do you know how much of this tech we barely understand? We're strapping alien engines onto human ships and hoping they don't explode the first time we hit warp." Nathan smirked. "You're the best engineer we've got. I'm betting on you to make sure that doesn't happen." She rolled her eyes. "I swear, if you die in this thing, I'm not taking the blame." The Phoenix, now fully upgraded, led the next mission to secure the asteroid belt. Intelligence reports had pinpointed a rogue faction operating from a hidden base within the debris field, likely a remnant of Calvok's forces. Nathan briefed the crew before departure. "This isn't just a cleanup op," he said, standing at the center of the bridge. "Whoever's running this base is consolidating Zothran tech. If they're allowed to gather enough firepower, they'll be back on our doorstep. We're going in to shut them down. Hard." The asteroid base was a sprawling structure of jagged metal, cobbled together from fragments of Zothran ships. The Phoenix approached under the cover of its cloaking system, weaving through the dense field of debris. On the bridge, Shauna monitored the ship's systems with a wary eye. "We're reading increased energy signatures from the base," she said. "Looks like they're charging something big." "Great," Nathan muttered. "I love it when they have surprises." The Phoenix launched its drones, each one carrying reconnaissance equipment to map the base's defenses. As the holographic display filled with data, the crew identified a network of shield generators protecting the facility's core. "Take out those generators," Nathan ordered, "and let's make this quick. They've already seen us." The rogue faction responded with immediate aggression. Ships launched from the base in swarms, their weapons lighting up the asteroid belt in bursts of plasma and energy fire. The Phoenix weaved through the chaos, its upgraded shields absorbing the brunt of the assault, while its own weapons returned fire. Shauna's voice crackled over the comms from the engine room. "These upgrades aren't designed for extended firefights. You'd better be almost done up there." "Working on it," Nathan replied, gritting his teeth. Strike teams deployed from the Phoenix to infiltrate the base, targeting the shield generators. On board the base, Nathan led his team through narrow corridors filled with makeshift defenses and scavenged Zothran tech. "Feels like Calvok's playbook," one team member muttered as they dismantled a turret. "Yeah," Nathan said grimly, "except this time, he's letting someone else do the dirty work." The team reached the first generator and planted explosives, moving swiftly to avoid detection. By the time the last charge was set, alarms blared across the facility. "Time to go," Nathan shouted, leading the retreat back to the docking bay. The explosions ripped through the base, sending shock waves across the asteroid belt. The shield generators collapsed, leaving the core exposed. The Phoenix delivered the final blow, launching a focused energy beam that pierced the heart of the facility. The base detonated in a massive explosion, scattering debris across the field. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Shauna let out a shaky breath. "Well, that's one last thing trying to kill us." Nathan grinned, and about 1,000 more still out there. The victory was decisive, but Nathan knew it wouldn't go unnoticed. The galaxy was watching, and Earth's growing reputation as a resilient and dangerous player was beginning to ripple outward. 2 days later, Nathan sat in the Bastion's war room, staring at a new transmission on the central console. It was marked with the insignia of the Lathar Consortium, a power Nathan had hoped wouldn't take notice of Earth for a while longer. The transmission played, displaying the cold, flawless features of Envoy Prime. "Humanity of Earth," the envoy began, its golden eyes glowing faintly. "You have drawn the gaze of the Consortium. Your actions disrupt the balance of power. This will not be ignored. Prepare yourselves, for you are about to be evaluated." Nathan leaned back in his chair, letting out a slow breath. "What now?" Shauna asked, standing beside him. "Now," Nathan said, "we find out if they came to talk or to fight." Earth's survival had once again turned the galaxy's gaze upon it, but Nathan Collier knew one thing for certain. No matter what came next, humanity would be ready. After all, Earth always had a backup plan. The Lathar Consortium's emissary arrived in orbit, its ship a sleek, obsidian spear that shimmered as if alive. It docked with the Bastion, and from its airlock emerged Envoy Prime, tall, flawless, and faintly glowing, its golden eyes scanning the assembled TDC representatives with unsettling precision. Nathan Collier stood at the forefront of the reception team, his expression neutral despite the knot of unease in his chest. Beside him, Shauna Graves kept her arms crossed, her skeptical gaze fixed on the alien envoy. "Humanity of Earth," Envoy Prime began, its voice resonant yet cold. "You are an anomaly. Your survival against the Zothrans was improbable. Your destruction of their shipyard was unexpected. And now, your actions have disrupted the balance we preserve." "Disrupted?" Nathan asked, raising an eyebrow. "I'd call it defending ourselves." Envoy Prime's golden eyes narrowed. Survival is not justification. Power wielded recklessly threatens more than your world. It destabilizes the equilibrium of all. Nathan folded his arms. So what's the plan? Evaluate us into submission? The envoy tilted its head, the faint glow of its skin shifting, as if analyzing his words. Your worth must be measured. Prepare. The evaluation begins now. With that, Envoy Prime turned and departed, leaving the Bastion's delegation in tense silence. The evaluation began almost immediately. Earth's communication systems experienced subtle but unrelenting disruptions. Military satellites detected untraceable signals, and orbital defense platforms reported mysterious malfunctions. Civilian networks flickered in and out, causing confusion and panic across cities. In the Bastion's war room, Shauna slammed her fist on the console as error codes scrolled across the screen. They're stress testing us, she said. Every system we've got is glitching out, and I can't even figure out where they're hitting us from. They're looking for cracks, Nathan replied. Weaknesses they can exploit to justify whatever they decide to do next. So, what do we do? Nathan turned to the holographic display of Earth's defenses. We show them we don't break. The Terran Defense Coalition mobilized its best minds. Engineers and programmers worked around the clock to stabilize critical systems, while military strategists coordinated defensive drills and contingency plans. Nathan and Shauna spearheaded an initiative to trace the Lathar's interference back to its source. Days later, their efforts paid off. Got it, Shauna announced, leaning over her console. They're running their operation from a hidden station just outside the asteroid belt. Looks like they're using some kind of stealth tech, but we've cracked the frequency. Nathan nodded. Then we pay them a visit. The Phoenix departed under strict stealth protocols, its crew tense but focused. As the hybrid starship approached the Lathar station, its scanners revealed a massive structure, an intricate lattice of obsidian metal, pulsating with faint, rhythmic light. This isn't just a staging ground, Shauna said, her voice low. This thing's a fortress. Nathan studied the display. A fortress is still just a target. What do we know about its defenses? Nothing good, she replied. Energy shields, automated drones, and something I can only describe as a graviton slicer. I really don't want to find out what that does. Nathan smirked. Then let's make sure we don't. The Phoenix launched a swarm of reconnaissance drones, each carrying advanced stealth tech to evade the Lathar's sensors. The data they returned revealed vulnerabilities in the station's energy grid, a network of conduits powering its defenses. Nathan assembled the strike team. We disabled their grid, and the rest of this fortress comes down like a house of cards. Shauna, you're running point from the ship. Yeah, she muttered, checking her console. Just don't blow anything up until I tell you to. The strike team infiltrated the station under the cover of the Phoenix's cloaking field. Nathan led his operatives through a maze of corridors, the air heavy with a faint hum that seemed to pulse through the walls. As they reached the first energy conduit, Shauna's voice came over comms. Heads up, looks like they've got drones patrolling your route. Great, Nathan muttered. More toys to dodge. The team moved quickly, planting charges on key nodes of the energy grid. Alarms blared as the Lathar's defenses detected the intrusion, and drones swarmed the corridors. Time to go, Nathan shouted, firing at the pursuing machines as the team made their way back to the extraction point. The charges detonated in synchronized bursts, sending cascading failures through the station's systems. The Phoenix moved in for the final strike, targeting the exposed core with its upgraded weapons. The Lathar fortress erupted in a blinding explosion, fragments scattering into the void. On board the Phoenix, Shauna let out a relieved sigh. Well, that was subtle. Nathan chuckled. Subtle's overrated. Back on the Bastion, Nathan and Shauna prepared for the inevitable response. It came 2 days later as another transmission from Envoy Prime appeared on the War Room's central display. "You continue to defy expectations," the Envoy said, its golden eyes narrowing. "Your resourcefulness is impressive, but your defiance destabilizes the galaxy. Do not mistake this as approval. We will be watching." Nathan leaned forward, "And if you don't like what you see—" Envoy Prime's voice grew cold. "Then Earth will cease to exist." The transmission ended, leaving the room in silence. Earth's victory against the Lathar's fortress bought humanity time, but Nathan knew it was a temporary reprieve. The galaxy's gaze had fixed on Earth, and its enemies would not wait long to strike again. In the weeks that followed, the TDC worked tirelessly to strengthen its defenses and expand its fleet. New alliances were forged with smaller factions willing to aid Earth in exchange for access to its hybrid technology. One evening, as Nathan stood on the observation deck of the Bastion, Shauna joined him. "Another day, another crisis," she said, handing him a mug of coffee. Nathan took it with a tired smile. "Still beats losing." She leaned on the railing, gazing out at the stars. "Think they'll ever leave us alone?" "No," Nathan replied. "But that's fine. Let them come." "Backup plans?" "Always." As the Bastion's lights shimmered against the backdrop of space, Nathan felt a quiet determination. Earth wasn't just surviving, it was evolving. And no matter what came next, humanity would be ready.